How much similarities did you see with what's going on then with what we have experienced over the past year?
That it was shocking.
Today we are going to break down and analyze the trial of the Chicago 7, the trial of the Chicago 7, which is a Netflix original, and Aaron Sorkin wrote and directed this. How crazy is that?
It's awesome.
Well, I got to tell you,
Awesome.
I really did enjoy this one. It's got a really high rating. It rates in the high 80s. So, I mean, people have loved it. Typically, you and I watch these and we really enjoy them, and they're all rated rather low. So it's nice that we found one that other people really liked.
Yeah. Yay.
I'm going to hit you with the log line for
Okay, let's
the
do it.
trial of the Chicago 7. The story of 7 people on trial stemming from various The story of 7 people on trial stemming from various charges surrounding the uprising at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. So, other than
taking it back. Yeah, taking it back to the old school.
But how much similarities did you see with what's going on then with what we have experienced over the past year?
That it was shocking because clearly we know that this film was written and filmed even before this last year.
Exactly.
But the like dichotomy and this element of like seeing the footage of them like rioting and protesting, and then I'm like, this is what's happening. This hasn't even changed. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. It feels like, I mean, police brutality and all of that, the harassment, and you could really see everybody in the trial of the 7. So many people were represented in the 7, which I thought was great to really see that. And to see how the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
So the trial of the Chicago 7, written directed by Aaron Sorkin. And here's the thing: Aaron Sorkin started out as a playwright, right? He's a playwright, he's a dramaturgist. And I will tell you, you can really see it when he does these films, because they tend to be single location heavy. Right.
Yeah.
And dependent on the dialogue. Visually, we're not really showing a whole ton of subtext, where there is a lot of telling about the story, but the dialogue is fantastic. Watching these A-list stars like Sacha Baron Cohen and Eddie Redmayne, doing a crazy Boston accent or sounding like, an all-American, which is amazing. But watching them share scenes together is fantastic. And that's not even talking about like Frank Langella's performance as this crazy psycho geriatric
dementia setting
ridden.
In right in front of your eyes. You're like, this is dementia. What's happening here?
Yeah, what's going on? Why is this guy behind a bench and putting people in prison? Yeah, insane. So very powerful performances. What I appreciated was the small bits of humor that were put in, tactfully so, because this is such a dramatic case and there's a lot of stakes going on here, and the characters are so human, but then you have like the little bit of dementia where Frank Langella's character is like, he has the same last name as Sacha Baron Cohen, and he has to make sure that it's noted in the court
distinguish
record.
It. I know, it's so great. And then Sacha Baron Cohen's like, Dad,
Father, no. Yeah,
Father, no.
Absolutely.
That's
hilarious.
Awesome.
Very clever. That, and then the 2 side characters, I really appreciated that they didn't have a lot of screen time. They were part of the 7.
Yes.
I don't know their character names, but there was a scene in the film where we realized like 25 undercover officers had infiltrated this peaceful protest.
Sure.
It was like it was kind of like new Woodstock at some point inside the park. They weren't being violent. They were, hippies doing, hippie things,
hanging out.
with music and drugs and a lot of freedom going on there.
Yes, it was just a freedom fest.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So one of them leans over to the other and says, "Do you think that we just led a protest of 10,000 undercover cops?" And I laughed my butt off. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. So there's like little moments like that would be interspersed into these big dramatic moments. What do you think?
I mean, so I'm an Aaron Sorkin fan, and this had him written all over it. From the dialogue and the characterization. And yeah, you're right. He's that dialogue telling the story, but through these dynamic and completely, the characters are visual. Their performance is visual. So with the partnered with that dialogue and the story that they're telling, and you've got A-list stars doing it,
right?
The story tells itself. And, I don't know if you ever watched The West Wing. Were you a West Wing fan?
I've seen parts of it. I never got into it.
Yeah. So he was obviously involved in the first season, and then the show continued on, but it had his stamp all over it for a long time. And there were scenes in this movie where I'm like, that is legitimately going back 20 years to The West Wing.
Gotcha.
And it's because there's he was trying to kind of obviously make this political, bring that to light.
Yeah.
But through the characters, which is so wonderful, I think, about Aaron Sorkin, because even though all 7 people completely came from different walks of life, and they were representing other people, whether it was racially or culturally, their views and their beliefs were extremely different, but they all wanted the same end goal. And that's always how he's written a lot of his character, like his big cast characters, his ensembles.
Right.
It's always that they have to work together to get to that end goal, but they're just all from different, they're bringing like whole new, it's great.
Different walks of life coming together.
Yeah.
I think it adds a lot of awesome conflict between the characters when you have everybody wants the same goal, but then everybody has their own little secrets, and those secrets can cause conflict with the other characters, and then potentially mess up the goal overall as well. And so that was very much on display with Eddie Redmayne's character and Sacha Baron Cohen. One is a showboat, the other one is far more academic and and more political in his nature, and both of their approaches are different and conflicting, but then at the end of the story they come to realize those are each other's strengths.
Exactly.
And so how do we use our strengths? And so it was beautiful how they brought that together in the end. Now, I've had to do a courtroom drama, and I got to tell you, they're hard as hell to write.
I can imagine.
Because it's just it can be exceptionally boring.
Right.
And lots of legal jargon and all that stuff. So you do have to rely on that intercharacter dynamics going on between the judge, between the defendants, and the prosecuting attorney. And he does that. What I was looking at and really appreciating how this film introduced characters is look at how big the staff is, or how big the roster is of actors, right?
Oh yeah.
So you've got at least a dozen characters, including the 7, and you have to introduce all of them, and you don't have a lot of time to introduce these characters. And this isn't like the MCU where we could rely on prior movies that have established the characters and then just sneak them into film. Like, you have to show everybody. So the way they did it was a series of cuts in the beginning where each character was revealed who they are. Like, we'll say Jerry Rubin was Sacha Baron Cohen's brother, who was played by the guy who was actually in Billions, who plays a completely different character. And to see him as a hippie is great. So they introduce him, and we get a little bit of a title card there, which is fine, but he's introduced to who he is, where he's in a classroom and he's teaching how to make a Molotov cocktail.
I know, it's perfection.
Like a chalkboard is behind him, and it says Mr. Whatever his name is, but he crosses out the Mr. and he writes his first name.
Yeah,
that tells you everything you need to know about who this guy is.
Yeah,
and they introduce every single character that way, which is brilliant. But then they also do it through dialogue. So where one character's dialogue finishes mid-sentence, it is immediately picked up by another character taken into a completely different direction. And you can think, oh, this is artistic. Oh, this is cool. But what Sorkin is telling you is that all of these characters are one. This is the
Right.
trial of the seven. And I
Yes.
thought that is absolutely a brilliant approach to establish a large cast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, that's another trademark Sorkin thing. So, people listening or watching are going to know what I'm talking about if you're a Sorkin fan. This is his thing. This is his trademark to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him stand out in terms of, how he brings these kind of big ensemble casts together, because that's a skill to be able to do that, to write it that way, to direct it that way, and to know when, as you're writing it, that it has to flow this way in such a perfect way.
It's next level.
Yeah, it's next level. He's totally next level. I love him.
As great as he is, I have to tell you, there's no question that wasn't hard as hell to write, and that he didn't go through a million drafts. There is no way he didn't. I was looking at like, this is just absolutely amazing, and I don't know if I would want to try and take that task on, having done what I've done. But what an amazing feat.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I mean, he did just win the Golden Globe for Best Original Screenplay, which I think was well deserved.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there was other nominations, but if there's one that I feel like give it to him.
Yeah. He's the guy. Yeah.
He's the guy.
And it's worth it, and he's earned it. So with this, another thing I really appreciated with the characters is that they don't get to what happened in the big event and the protests and the riot and the violence right away. And I think that was really smart, because if they had covered it right away, I don't think we would be as empathetic for the characters, right? If we see them in a violent situation, but if we bring them into being human, and then we don't reveal it, and then we use like a trickle down effect of slow revelations of scenes, and then to the big twist at the end with Eddie Redmayne's character.
Right.
I thought that was awesome. I really respected how they were able to do that.
I feel like in the courtroom scenes, we're the jury. The audience is going through the same journey that a jury would be going through. We're hearing it as it would be. So we're getting presented to the evidence, and we want to know what's coming next. We want to know what cross-examination is going to sound like.
Right.
And then you get to pull back and see those other elements outside of the courtroom, where a lot more of the narrative is kind of driven, essentially, and you're seeing this slow build to that big scene at the end. So it felt the natural progression between the two, or the switch between the two. I can't think of a word right now. I don't know why. It felt great, because it felt natural. It just worked in the spots it needed to. I didn't want to keep going on. It was like, let's recess. Yes, because it feels like we should not still be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good when you're cutting between different parts of the story like that. I would know when I was working on the drama with a courtroom, I was like, every time I came to the courtroom scene, I was like, how do I make this interesting?
Yeah.
And then get away from it, because because this isn't Law and Order,
Yeah.
So you want to get to the good stuff, and you want to get to the character drama. So I was real big on coming in late and leaving early, and and it worked,
Yeah.
So with the prosecution side, what I really liked is how human he was as a character.
Yeah.
And almost resented that he had to be doing the job.
Well, yeah.
I thought that was great, because it humanized him, and it showed yet another face of America that we could see, instead of just having this angry, prosecuting attorney that was using all the dirty tricks in the book. Instead, they left that for the judge.
Yes, exactly. That was great. That was the cool thing about it. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt did a great job. But I feel like even in the very beginning, or the scene where we're introduced to him and he's sitting across from the new attorney general, he knows where this is going, and he knows, as he realizes what's happening, okay, this is not good. And through his intelligence of law, he's really trying to explain that but there's nothing here. Like, this is legally, they didn't do anything wrong. Just because you don't like what they say doesn't mean they did something illegal.
Right.
And so he's put in a precarious place, and he has to move forward with building this trial around these people. And That was, yeah. I mean, what a hard conflict, because you can see it even in that first scene. You can see the conflict already in him. It's
Yeah.
just there, and it's a good way. I mean, he did a great job.
I think so too. I think it just adds a little bit more humanity to the whole situation,
Yeah.
especially making him friendly with, Sacha Baron Cohen's character.
Right.
And
Right.
having that lovely banter. It just shows the humanity there. And I think this needed it. If you had him and the judge and then his boss, and they were all kind of like disassociated from it and just trying to do their job and trying to put these guys in prison and don't care about them being people, I think we lose a lot there.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
But by humanizing it, it takes it to another level. And I think that's something you can walk away from this learning for your own writing. Is like, okay, how can maybe I can take this antagonistic character. Maybe I can make them human. Maybe I can have them doing something they don't want to be doing, which adds a level of internal conflict in that character and elevates the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I got to talk about this. Bobby Seale.
I was just going to say that.
Right?
I was just going to say that. Let's talk about him.
My God.
I know.
That was just, so being a head of a wing of the Black Panther, he was roped into this whole trial, even though he had nothing to do with it, just to put a scary face, as he says it, in front of the
courtroom.
Jury. Yeah. God. And that scene, I mean,
yeah, and you're right. Here's this lends back to the just subtle visual, but it says so much, which was they all come in because they're on bail, and he comes in shackles, and yet he wasn't even there.
It's insane.
And that was a punch. And this is what you're about to, and it, as it kind of progressed on and he kept saying, I want to speak, I want to speak. And every time he was shot down, it literally was a representation of every time, Blacks and African-Americans have tried to speak up, they are told to sit down, just in general. Like that's right. It was symbolic for that. And it just kept, they keep saying it, and we know we need to hear them, and they have a voice, and they need to be heard. And he just kept getting shut down.
So, and it goes far beyond that. And this is right from history. This is real life. This isn't adding this for dramatic effect.
Right.
He was taken into a back room during court proceedings, beaten and gagged.
Yes.
And I went back and I looked at the sketches. The court sketches of how he was tied down and gagged, and it's horrific.
It's horrific. It's horrendous.
Absolutely horrible to do this to a human being, let alone in a court of law in the United States of America.
Right.
In the 60s, this happened, this poor man. And showing that and showing the impact of that on the rest of the seven, and how disgusting it was, and then how the judge is trying to justify it.
Oh yeah, it's just like he knew what was coming.
Yeah, absolutely terrible.
He didn't, and what I love even about that, I mean, I hate that visual, and clearly, obviously, don't support that in any way. But I think that was the moment for Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character that broke the straw. Whatever that phrase is.
That was it was a reversal for him.
That was the moment he realized, like, this, we're wrong. We're wrong.
We are on the wrong side.
And now it's in front of everybody. And now we do not look good. And he's the one that goes up and says, I'm not doing this until we need a
side. No, I think that's absolutely right. And as a filmmaking perspective, with that scene, you could have taken that scene, you could have shown him getting beaten, you could have shown, really laying on it. But instead, what they did, they showed brief flashes, quick flashes, and then they would cut to the room, to the silence of the room, and you could hear echoes of him being hurt.
Yes. Yep.
Then they would do it again, and then they would show the faces of everybody in that room and the weight of it. And you could feel that. I mean, it hits you. And that was the right way to do it, by showing the reactions of it. Yeah. And it was just.
And what it did for everybody in the room. Yeah.
So.
And he was, and that actor was,
incredible.
That actor was incredible. Yeah. I don't know who he was. I didn't.
His name was Yahya Abdul-Mateen II.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was great.
absolutely. Just a very talented actor.
Yeah,
And
the whole cast.
yeah, just amazing talent in this
Mhm.
whole film.
Right.
And so yeah, so he was let off, but not without consequences. I mean, while he was there, one of his friends was shot and killed in
Yeah.
what they believe is an execution style. And I mean, just showing all of this stuff because right, that back then that happened, and then it makes you think about Breonna Taylor. It makes you think
Yes.
about all of these people that have been just tragically abused by this system and the
Right.
losses that have come from it. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
It's
the film did it. I had a couple of little moments when
yeah,
that kind of sequence happened where he's I think the lawyer's talking to him first and he says,
yeah,
"No, I already know. I've already heard."
yeah,
But it was just palpable and I
yeah,
got a little teary
yeah.
because
It's tough.
it's tough. It's
Yeah,
really tough. And I have kids. And what do we tell our kids? I mean, how this is history, but then they're seeing it today.
right.
And how do we help our children grow and shape to make a change? Because back then they were thinking, if we don't make a change, we got to at least change for our future generation.
Yeah,
And nothing changed.
I know.
So it was powerful.
It's definitely generational, and I mean, I just try and do the best, try and be the best parent I was,
Yeah.
and try and teach people are people, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
And we all come from different walks of life, and trying to teach somebody how to walk through somebody else's shoes is a difficult challenge, and I just try and pass it along the best I can.
Yeah. And be
Yeah,
transparent and
yeah,
honest. And it's films like this that will help keep that open dialogue
yeah.
and keep those records. Yeah.
It's an
And
honest look,
it's
and
an honest look.
that's
Exactly.
what you need to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
people want to talk about the exceptionalism of America and how great it is, and I love this country. It's a beautiful country, but that doesn't mean we don't have our ugly past.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I didn't think this film was going to take us there. We ended up in a bit of a somber place, but this is a fun film as far as the acting goes, and the production of it is impressive. The
Yeah.
talent is incredible. So there is a lot of great moments in the film as well. It is based around some terrible moments in history, but he was able to bring a bit of heart to it and lightness to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this episode is brought to you by the Script Summit Screenplay Contest, and I got to get it out there. So
Yes,
we actually
absolutely.
have a deadline coming up on the 14th.
Yeah. It's coming up.
And I think our next round of official selections is going to be announced this week. So
Wonderful.
that'll
Yay.
happen as well.
Yay.
And so if you're looking to submit to the screenplay contest, now's the time.
Do it.
And we want to thank everybody for popping on. And hello, Teddy and Eric and William. And we will be looking for a film next week. What are you thinking?
I don't know. Because we always say a genre that we pick something. It's not
that's my favorite part, is picking the genre and then
and then this time it was like, okay, let's go for this one. It was this heavy emotional courtroom drama. So you pick. Do you want to pick or you want me to pick?
There, we can use Hulu movies, right?
Yeah.
There was an action movie, I think, that came out with Mel Gibson on Hulu.
Let's check it out.
About a cop that keeps reliving his death. If that sounds like that's something interesting to you.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do
it. Let's do it.
All right, everybody. We're going to look that one up, and then we'll post it on the Facebook Script Summit Writers Group. Thanks again.